The war began by accident. At least that's what the Galactic Council claimed. No one really knew who fired first, only that a distant mining colony on the rim sent a final distress call before the stars around it went dark. The enemy didn't come in fleets. It came in cages. They called them the rewrote, engineered predators, bred for one purpose: to hunt anything that moved. Each beast was heavier than a hover tank, faster than sound in close quarters, and so vicious that even their own handlers kept force fields between them. For generations, the aliens who created them had unleashed them on rebellious worlds, always confident that no creature in the galaxy could survive their bite. Until the humans arrived. The first human detachment to land on Arx Prime wasn't even a combat unit. It was a rescue team. Among them was Lieutenant Reed, a medic who didn't believe in monsters. He had seen enough wars to know the real horror was usually the people in charge. So when the alien trainers warned him not to step closer to the containment pen, he ignored them. Inside the cell, a white-striped beast crouched, muscles coiled, breath steaming against the energy field. Its yellow eyes followed every twitch of movement, every heartbeat in the room. "Don't go near it!" the trainer hissed, voice trembling. "It kills anything that moves." Reed only smiled. He knelt just outside the barrier and looked straight into the creature's eyes. There was fury there, but also confusion. It had been chained, shocked, starved, forced to fight for creatures who didn't understand mercy. He could almost feel the hunger, not for flesh, but for freedom. "Hey there, big guy," he murmured. "Easy now." The alien stared in disbelief as the beast's growl softened. It tilted its massive head, nostrils flaring as it caught the scent of the human's calm. Reed reached into his med bag, pulled out a nutrient strip, and held it against the field. For a heartbeat, silence. Then the creature pressed forward, taking it gently through the shimmering barrier. The trainers recoiled. No one had ever seen a rewrote accept food without killing for it. Reed leaned closer, studying its scars. Every mark told a story of pain, control, and fear. He whispered again, voice steady. "You're not the monster here, are you?" When the power grid flickered, the containment field blinked out for a split second. Enough time for disaster or a miracle. The beast lunged forward and everyone screamed, except Reed. He didn't move. The rewrote stopped inches from him, its teeth bared, hot breath washing over his face. Reed reached up, hand trembling only slightly, and scratched behind its ear. The soldiers froze. The alien commanders couldn't breathe. And the war beast, the thing that killed anything that moved, closed its eyes and rumbled in contentment. "Good boy," Reed said softly. From that moment, nothing was the same. The council scientists demanded to know how he did it. The alien generals called it impossible. But word spread fast. One human had tamed the galaxy's deadliest weapon with nothing more than trust. Far beyond the station, others listened. Commanders saw opportunity. Enemies saw danger. And somewhere deep in the networked mind of the rewrote hive, something began to stir, a flicker of memory not its own. A strange new instinct whispering, "Friend." Reed didn't know he had just started the most unpredictable alliance in galactic history. He only knew that the beast beside him, calm and silent, deserved more than chains. Outside, alarms howled as enemy ships reappeared on scanners. The war wasn't over. It had just found a new side, and standing in the middle of it was a human who had called the universe's deadliest creature a good boy. The base never slept after that day. Word spread like wildfire. One human had walked into a cage of death and walked out with a friend. For the alien staff, it was a miracle wrapped in madness. For Reed, it was simply instinct. He had always believed every living thing could feel trust if you offered it first. The rewrote stayed near his quarters now, lying silently beside the reinforced window, eyes tracking him with something that looked almost like loyalty. The aliens called it Unit 47, but Reed refused. He called it Ghost because it moved like one. Silent, watchful, impossible to predict. Every scientist in the sector demanded tests. They wanted to study the human's scent, voice tone, neural patterns, anything that could explain why the monster obeyed him. But the moment anyone tried to approach, Ghost's pupils narrowed, its lips curled, and the room filled with a growl so deep The walls vibrated. Only Reed could calm it. At night, Reed would sit by its side, tracing the scars along its fur. He wondered what horrors had trained a creature this magnificent to hate everything alive. Ghost would blink slowly, as if trying to remember a life before cages. The alien commander, General Soren, wasn't impressed. He saw danger in every heartbeat of the beast. "You can't control it forever, human," he hissed. "When it turns, it will start with you." Reed didn't argue. He simply looked at the enormous predator beside him. "Then I'll take my chances," he said. When the next attack warning blared, the base fell into chaos. Enemy ships tore through the sky, dropping pods full of more Rovath beasts. The aliens scrambled for weapons, but it was too late. The cages cracked open, and the ground shook with thunderous roars. Reed ran toward the central corridor. Ghost followed, fast, low, a blur of white muscle. They burst through smoke and fire, straight into the onslaught of unleashed beasts. Dozens of predators turned their glowing eyes toward them. Every alien soldier screamed for Reed to retreat. Instead, he raised a hand. "Stay," he whispered to Ghost. The giant beast stopped instantly, muscles tight but obeying. The enemy pack hesitated, confused. The human's calm presence rippled through the chaos like an unseen command. Ghost stepped forward and let out a roar that split the air. But it wasn't a challenge. It was a warning. The enemy beasts froze. Then one by one they backed away, their snarls fading into uneasy silence. Even the alien commanders watching from the defense screens could hardly believe what they saw. The monsters retreating from a single human voice. General Soren's tone shook over the comm. How is it doing that?" Reed only answered, "Because someone finally stopped shouting orders and started listening." When the dust cleared, the outpost still stood. Half the beasts had fled. Ghost lay beside Reed, exhausted but alive. Outside, the stars burned brighter than before, and every living soul on that planet knew something had changed forever. The creature that once killed anything that moved had chosen not to. By the next rotation, every major species in the Galactic Council knew the name Reed. They had replayed the footage 1,000 times, one human standing in the middle of fire and chaos, a Rovath war beast beside him, obeying like a trained guardian. It didn't make sense to them, and things that didn't make sense always scared them. On Arx Prime, the base was surrounded by silence. The surviving soldiers whispered whenever the human and his creature passed. Some called him the Beast Whisperer. Others thought he had lost his mind. Reed didn't care. He only cared that Ghost hadn't killed anyone since that day. The council summoned him for questioning. The chamber was massive. White walls, polished floor, and a dozen alien leaders staring down from their tall seats. Holograms of Ghost flickered in the center, every movement analyzed, every breath measured. "Explain!" demanded one of them, voice cold and sharp. "How did a human control a Rovath?" Reed leaned forward. "I didn't control it. I earned its trust," the hall murmured. Words like impossible, dangerous, unnatural echoed through the air. But one figure, a quiet scientist with silver skin, studied him carefully. "You say trust," she said softly. "You mean empathy. Call it what you like," Reed replied. "It's stronger than fear." Meanwhile, Ghost was caged again, surrounded by energy fields 10 layers thick. The scientists ran endless tests, measuring its reactions, its heartbeat, its gaze whenever it heard Reed's voice. What terrified them most wasn't aggression, it was calm. The beast seemed content. That night, when everyone slept, alarms screamed through the base. The containment system had failed again, but this time it wasn't sabotage. Ghost had stayed in its cage, staring at the red lights, unmoving, waiting. Only when Reed entered did it lie down, tail thudding softly against the floor. The guards aimed plasma rifles. "If it moves, shoot!" Reed raised his hands. "Stand down." Slowly he stepped inside. The air was thick with tension, but the creature's eyes were calm. It pressed its head against his chest like a child seeking comfort. Every guard in the room lowered their weapon. In the council chamber far away, the decision was made. If humans could tame Rovath beasts, they could overturn the balance of power. A secret order went out. Remove the human. Terminate the experiment. The next morning, Reed woke to find his quarters locked and his communicator jammed. Ghost growled low, sensing the threat. Outside, armed patrols closed in. Reed looked at the creature and whispered, "Looks like they don't want us alive, buddy." Ghost rose slowly, shoulders rolling, claws clicking against metal. For the first time since its capture, its eyes burned not with rage, but with purpose. The beast that once killed anything that moved was ready to kill again. But this time, for the human, it called friend. Reed stood by the reinforced window, watching storm clouds gather over Ark's prime. He could almost feel the tension in the air, like the planet itself knew what was coming. Ghost lay quietly at his feet, but its tail twitched every few seconds. The beast could sense danger before it arrived. Outside, the patrol teams were moving closer, pretending it was a routine inspection. But Reed wasn't fooled. He saw the reflection of plasma rifles glinting through the hall glass. The order had come down. He and Ghost were to be erased for security reasons. He touched the creature's head. "Stay calm, boy. We'll handle this our way." The door hissed open. 5 armed soldiers stepped in, faces hidden behind glass helmets. Their leader spoke coldly. "Human, step away from the containment unit." Reed crossed his arms. "Containment unit? That's a living being. Try using its name." They didn't answer. The leader raised his weapon. That was enough. Ghost moved before they could blink. A blur of white muscle crashed through the air. One swipe of its massive paw sent the first guard flying across the room. The others fired wildly, but plasma bolts bounced off reinforced walls as Ghost weaved through them like smoke. Reed ducked under a control panel, shouting, "Don't kill them!" The beast growled but obeyed, striking with precision, disarming, throwing, but never taking a life. The soldiers fled, terrified. The alarms triggered across the base. Red lights flashed. Metal doors slammed shut. Overhead speakers screamed, "Containment breach in Section 12!" Reed ran to the control station, hands flying across the panels. "We need an exit before they send drones." Ghost stood guard at the door, snarling at every approaching sound. When the final barrier dropped, a wide maintenance tunnel appeared, glowing blue from emergency lights. Reed grabbed his med pack and looked at Ghost. "Ready to make history again?" The beast tilted its head, then crouched low so he could climb onto its back. Together they plunged into the tunnel. The air whipped past as Ghost sprinted faster than any vehicle, claws striking sparks from the steel floor. Behind them, the Council's enforcers launched pursuit drones. Energy blasts roared through the corridor. Reed leaned forward. "Left turn now!" Ghost pivoted sharply, crashing through a side hatch that opened into the planet's outer surface. They burst into open daylight, wind, dust, and the raw silence of freedom. From above, alien ships descended, engines howling. Reed squinted at the horizon. A transport pad shimmered a few kilometers away. It was their only chance. "There, Ghost, go!" The beast thundered forward, tail whipping behind it. Bolts of plasma exploded around them. Reed felt the heat scorch his jacket, but Ghost didn't slow. It leapt across broken ground, its muscles rippling like liquid power. They reached the pad just as the sky lit up with council fire. Reed slammed the activation switch, and light swallowed them both. For a few endless seconds, there was nothing. No sound, no weight, just energy tearing through space. Then they were gone. When the soldiers arrived, all they found was a broken transmitter and claw marks burned into the landing pad. The official report would say the human and his beast perished in the blast. But deep in the void, far from council reach, a small transport capsule drifted silently. Inside, Ghost lay curled beside the human who had freed it. Reed's voice was tired but calm. "Guess we're fugitives now, huh?" Ghost rumbled softly, its eyes closing. It trusted him completely. Somewhere, out beyond the stars, the universe had just lost control of its most dangerous weapon because it had finally found a reason to protect. The stars outside the shuttle window drifted by like quiet witnesses. Reed sat in the dim light, patching a small wound on Ghost's shoulder. The beast didn't flinch. It only watched him with steady golden eyes. "You're getting better at not killing people." Reed murmured with a faint smile. Ghost blinked once, slow and thoughtful, as if understanding. They had escaped Arches Prime, but not the galaxy. The Council had already declared them traitors, a dangerous human and his unstable war creature. Every outpost now carried their description. Drones searched the trade lanes. Bounty hunters whispered about the reward. For the first time, humanity's name was mentioned in fear again, but not because of weapons. Because of trust. Reed leaned back in his seat, exhaustion creeping into his bones. "They'll come for us soon." Ghost's tail twitched once. It seemed ready. The transmission came hours later, static, then a cold voice. "Lieutenant Reed of Earth, you are hereby ordered to surrender yourself and the Rovath unit. Resistance will result in annihilation." Reed smirked. "They still don't get it. We're not running from them anymore." He turned the shuttle toward an abandoned moon. The place was perfect. Dense caves, mineral interference, and no scanners. He and Ghost made camp inside the cavern, far beneath the surface. Days passed in silence. Reed scavenged, fixed the ship, and taught Ghost how to fetch metal scraps instead of bones. The beast seemed to learn fast, mimicking his every movement. Sometimes it would bring him tools before he even asked, as if reading his thoughts. But the peace didn't last. One night, Ghost lifted its head, ears twitching. The air vibrated faintly. Reed froze. He felt it too, a hum too soft for most ears. "Drones. Time to move," he whispered. They slipped through the cave tunnels, shadows blending with the rock. The hum grew louder. Light beams swept across the cavern mouth. Elite trackers in black armor entered, council hunters. "Thermal readings confirmed," one said. "The human is close." Reed crouched behind a rock, hand resting on Ghost's shoulder. "Not yet," he whispered. "Wait for the right moment." The first soldier stepped into the open chamber. That's when Ghost moved, silent as smoke. It tackled the hunter before he could scream, claws ripping the weapon from his hands but leaving him alive. Another came from behind. Reed dropped him with a stun pulse. The fight was fast, brutal, and silent. Within minutes, the entire squad lay unconscious, their gear scattered. Reed looked at Ghost. "You held back again." The beast lowered its head, breathing heavy but calm. Reed smiled faintly. "Good boy." From above, more engines thundered. "Bigger ships." They were closing the net. Reed climbed back into the shuttle and shouted, "Hang on!" Ghost leapt in beside him as the ship blasted off, cutting through the atmosphere like lightning. Bolts of plasma chased them across the stars. Reed gritted his teeth, steering through debris and asteroid fields. The Council had underestimated something dangerous, the bond between a soldier and a creature that once killed everything it saw. Now, the hunted had become the hunters. In distant systems, miners, traders, and mercenaries began whispering stories of a human and a monstrous white beast who tore through Council forces to save those the law had abandoned. And somewhere, in the heart of the galaxy, the Council began to fear a new legend rising, the man who tamed death itself. For weeks, the galaxy hunted them. Every comm network repeated the same warning: eliminate the human. Terminate the beast. But instead of fear, something else began spreading: hope. The recordings of Arches Prime had leaked, the human who calmed a killer with kindness, the creature that disobeyed orders to destroy. Refugees, miners, even soldiers began to whisper the same thing. Maybe the monsters aren't born. Maybe we make them. The Council couldn't stop the stories, so they decided to end the storytellers. Reed and Ghost were cornered on a barren planet named Vorthis 9, a lifeless rock at the edge of Council space. Their shuttle lay damaged, half buried in ash. Above them, ships blotted out the stars. Reed crouched beside Ghost, checking the old plasma pistol. "We're not going to make it out of this one, buddy," Ghost growled softly, not in fear, but in defiance. Its glowing eyes locked onto the sky as the first dropships descended. The ground shook when the Council's army landed, hundreds of soldiers, drones, and armored beasts. They spread in a circle, closing in. Loudspeakers roared, "Surrender the Rovath unit immediately!" Reed laughed quietly. "They still think you're just a weapon." He stood up, shoulders squared. "No surrender!" The enemy opened fire. The world turned white with explosions. Ghost leapt forward, a blur of fury and grace, knocking war machines aside like toys. Reed ran behind it, firing into the chaos, his voice echoing through the dust. When the smoke cleared, the council soldiers realized the nightmare. They weren't fighting a beast anymore. They were fighting loyalty itself. Ghost shielded Reed from every blast, moving like a living wall of muscle and light. But there were too many. A plasma round caught Reed in the side. He fell to his knees. "Stay back!" he gasped. "Don't you dare, Ghost!" The beast froze for 1 second, trembling between instinct and obedience. Then it howled, a deep, breaking sound that shook the battlefield. The alien commander raised his arm. "Kill it!" The moment stretched thin as glass. Then Ghost charged, every weapon turned on it. Fire rained down. But the beast tore through them, unstoppable. When the smoke finally cleared, the alien army was gone, either fled or fallen. The commander lay pinned beneath shattered armor, staring up at the creature that should have ended him. Ghost lowered its claws. It didn't strike. It only growled once and turned back to Reed. The human lay on the ground, blood dark against the dust, his hand still outstretched. When Ghost nuzzled his shoulder, he smiled faintly. "Told you. Good boys don't kill without reason." The clouds broke. Sunlight spilled across the ruins. Later, rescue beacons picked up strange signals from Vorthus 9. They found no bodies, only a set of human footprints beside massive paw prints leading away into the wasteland. Rumors spread faster than the council could bury them. Some said the human survived. Others swore the beast still guarded his grave. But the legend lived on, the war monster that killed anything that moved, until a human called it a good boy. And across the galaxy, wherever fear ruled, someone would whisper, "Don't be so sure what monsters are. Sometimes they're just waiting for a human to believe in them."